Hello once again. Yes. Once again, your host, Steven Chanda. Yeah, Kampala DevOps Community Lead. Yeah, and in today's session, which is focused on FinOps 101, we're going to be focusing on taking control of your cloud spend. We are welcoming Winnie Gakuru all the way from Nairobi, who has joined us on this lovely occasion to walk us through FinOps. Winnie is an AWS support engineer currently working with AWS Kenya, and she has over five plus years experience in the field of DevOps, GitOps, and cloud infrastructure management. Yeah, Winnie holds a number of certifications. Yeah, she has the Terraform Associate, AWS AI Practitioner, as well as also the Kubernetes Cloud Native Associate. She has really dived into the world of DevOps. Yeah, and also she previously worked with Safaricom Kenya as a DevSecOps engineer. Yeah, so she has really staunch, extensive experience in these regards. So without further ado, I would give the mic to Winnie Gakuru to take the show on. Thank you, Winnie. Thank you for honoring our invite, and we look forward to learning from you this special occasion. Yeah, thanks, Winnie. Welcome.
All right, thank you for the warm welcome. You can let me know when my screen is visible.
Yes, can view your screen.
All right, thank you. So I think by now you're a bit familiar with me. My name is Winnie Gakuru, currently a cloud support engineer with AWS, but I've worked with other organizations, and the entire experience attributes to around 5 years working in different roles. Yeah. So yeah, today we'll be talking about FinOps. We won't go much deep into it, but we'll be introducing it and more discussing why we are talking FinOps in regards to DevOps, or why also the engineering team has to consider finance when making engineering decisions. So at the end of these sessions, we'll discuss FinOps and the things that what it actually is. We dive deep into analyzing the costs and track the spend in cloud native setup. We also discuss how you can identify this and the saving opportunities, and even have a small demo where we'll be talking about a small agent that have set it up in regards to finance. Yeah, so to start us off, I'll start by maybe explaining the journey before the FinOps or before where we are. So what necessitated FinOps per se is when people started migrating to cloud, or when public cloud became a thing that people were adopting, especially public cloud, it came with some ambiguity. So cloud itself promised on-demand availability, scalability, and all the good things that it comes with it. But without the guardrails, we find that the expenditure can become enormous and affect the organization, especially in a startup. Finances are key things because it can even result to the closure of your business. So, but why is it an issue, or why did FinOps have to come into place? So when people were using cloud, ideally no one was owning the finance aspect of it. So finance will get the billings at the end of the month. They get dollars that has been spent, but they have no control or even the visibility of how that money has been spent. Engineers or DevOps engineers or the dev team, they're using these tools, but they don't understand the impact that it has in terms of the cost to the organization. The other thing is that bill will come at the end of the month. So it means it's too late. It has already been spent, and even remediating it, you'll have to pay it ideally. The other reason is it's hard to attribute. Yes, we have this amount of dollars that we are spending in our cloud, but can we understand why we are spending this, or why are we getting this too much bill? Can we break it down? So these are some of the things that necessitated FinOps, and why we have to also own it as DevOps engineer. So we have been trying to treat cost as a finance spreadsheet, that is with the traditional setup, but you have to think about what actually drive that. So when you think about it, you'll find that that end month bill that you get in this case is AWS, it's attributed to that instance that you, the DevOps or the developer, provisioned. Whether you made the decision of autoscaler that you scaled, did you set it up or did you not set it up? In terms of the log retention, did you set it up? The replica accounts that you chose. Ideally, all the decisions that you make has a direct impact in terms of how the organization will spend. So costs at this point no longer becomes a finance matrix, but it has to be left even to the engineering team to track it and even to inform the decision that we make. When it comes to FinOps, nothing new. It's just another SLI. The things you've been watching, your application latency, P99, error rates, saturations, and all that. So costs per request belonging to the cost in this aspect, you have to, like, there's nothing really changing. The same way you've been monitoring these things is the same way you're adding cost aspect of it. Whenever something is out of ordinary, you set an alarm and you alert it within a specific time. You don't have to wait for the end month for you to maybe inform that you're out of the expenditure. The other thing is you own the levers. So finance can't resize the nodes. Yeah, finance can say, okay, now you know that this team cannot go but they really can't control it. So they can only just say, okay, based on amount that we have, the funding that we can only afford to allocate these, but they can't control. So it can burn out, like discuss and see what can be optimized, what can be scaled down, so that you operate within the budget that has been allocated to the finance. So when it comes to cloud and DevOps, we really own that space as compared to the finance and the management, the top management. The other thing is these spikes becomes incidents. So whenever there's a 3 times cost jump overnight, it's not something that you get to explain at the end month when the bill maybe has arrived to the finance. So you can set in a way that whenever that anomaly happens, you act on it immediately and you remediate before it becomes a big issue that will cost the organization more compared to when you remediate early. So the question here stops being that should engineers care about the cost, and now it becomes why would we let anyone else on something that we only as we can control. All right, so most FinOps content is written for enterprises with the money to optimize. So here, when it comes to a startup, the math is different. A startup in Nairobi or Kampala, cloud spends competes different with competes directly with the payroll. So if you don't control that expenditure, the survival of the company is at stake. So here we talk about spend is a runway. So every dollar on an idle instance is a dollar not spent on hiring. So if that cash that is lying there in waste, it can be optimized, can be optimized and be redirected in other ways. It can be used in marketing. It can be used to pay us as the DevOps and cloud engineers. When you check for those zombie load balancers or any waste that actually is happening in cloud, that money can be redirected in other places. So when you compare this with big organization, yeah, they can manage, but when it comes to startups, cost is important because it's a direct impact into its survival. Engineers finds it fast. So you build the system, you spot the waste fastest and the cheapest way. A central finance review happens quarterly. So if you wait for that review quarterly, then it becomes it might becomes too late for that organization. It changes how you design. So when you have that cost in mind, cost aspect in mind, whenever you have a system or you are designing the implementation, you are cost aware. So you'll have to know the right instances to use. When it comes to even the resources to use, you can debate, okay, I can use this, but there's a cheaper way to achieve the same without even compromising the reliability and latency or general performance of the application. So it changes how you design the moment you understand, you control the cost aspect. The other thing is it also earns trust. So whenever even the management team notice that you're cost aware, because remember a CEO or a CFO is not even interested about, oh, I'm using a T3 they don't care or they don't understand about the nitty-gritty. But the moment you talk in the cost aspect, you show that if we go this way, we will save this kind of amount of money. Then you earn trust, because every time they will be talking about a new feature or some changes, you'll be the first person to come in their mind, because no one wants to waste money. So it also, as DevOps engineers or the engineers in general, it earns you trust in relation to the organization. Yeah. So FinOps, it's not a one-time project to slash the bill. Yeah, because most of the time when you hear the word FinOps, you're just thinking, okay, we are cutting, you are shutting down things that you're using. Yeah, so it's not a one-time project to slash the bill. It's an operating practice. So it has to be a practice, a way of working. We have to shift that culture to early as you're making the architectural design. So when you're designing on the services or the system that you're going to use, you have to have the cost aspect in mind when doing the design. So here, the engineering team and the finance team and even the product shareholders, you'll have to share the ownership. So finance will maybe give you the budget or provide the money that you can use. The engineering, you'll have to find ways to optimize, and the product owners will have to chip in and also own that cost aspect of the cloud spend with the actual data. So in this case, once you have set it up, you're no longer guessing. You have that actual data to make the informed decision. And the goal here isn't the slowest possible bill. It is because when you have a bill of 0, it means that you're not shipping anything. So the goal here is to come up with the most valuable per dollar. So as much as you might be spending 1 million, but are you able to attribute it? Are you able to show value of each and every dollar that you're spending within that 1 million? So when you're talking about cost cutting, you're not saying, okay, shut down everything, then you tell the finance team or the CFO, okay, now our team is spending zero. It doesn't bring value, because you have to work and you have to ship the services that you're building, or the products that you're building. But at the end of it, what the CFO and the finance and the other top management leadership needs is, can you show the value for each and every dollar that they are paying, so that when they are doing the next financial review, they'll be able to see and attribute the money that they spent. So remember the first problem we named, where nobody owns it. So finance will see a number with no context. FinOps fixes that by making it a shared conversation. So finance brings the budget reality, product brings the priority, and with the engineering bring the visibility into what actually driving the expenditure. So here, nobody owns the costs alone. It's everybody looking into the same data. So we can break it down into 3 repeating activities. So the first one is inform. Just get that visibility by labeling everything. So you show who spending what in the real time instead of next month. I call it labeling, but in other setup you can call it tags. But ideally, that one is just to give you the visibility. Then once you have the visibility, you can cut the waste. You can optimize, whether with using or eliminating the waste. Once you've eliminated it, you can even go a step further and commit on your baseline. So if after you've done all that, you see like we need 25 instances in AWS context, and then you can even reserve those instances maybe for a period of 1 year. And when you reserve, you realize they're usually cheaper than on demand, and you save even more. Next one is operate. So you make it continuous. You bake it into the pipelines, the alerts, and you review it so that it's not, you don't make it 1 year or maybe quarterly. You keep on reviewing it so that you optimize it. So in DevOps, you don't deploy any application once and call it done. So you don't also set up monitoring once and walk away. Costs in this case is not different. So there's no finish line where the bill is solved. So you have to set it, you have to run it like a loop. So each time around you tighten. Anytime you get any opportunity to save, you incorporate it and you tighten it. So when you talk about visibility, you see the expenditure. So you get to attribute who is for the bill that you're about to pay, who spent it, or which application, which team. You're able to drain it down to the last part of it, the team, the product, the application. You're able to attribute it. So you bring that visibility. Then you analyze, you find the wastes, the anomalies, and what are the drivers. After you've analyzed and you have your data, then you optimize. You get the right size. You can be running a lot of G instance type, instance family, and you realize maybe the expenditure or maybe the utilization is way low. So here's where optimization comes in. You find incentives run in a smaller instance type and does not affect the application in general. And at the end, you operate. So you automate the guardrails and alerts so that it and then you loop it so that it gives you again. So it's not a one-off thing that you come and set up and then you're like, okay, we're done. Let's take it off and let's go to the next project. No, you have to keep on reiterating, find ways, optimize it without even affecting the operation of the general operation within the organization. Yeah, so let's talk about visibility. So visibility has to come first because you cannot optimize what you cannot see. And when you talk about visibility, the foundation here is around when it comes to cloud infrastructure. So you can have as many tags as you want, but here I've just highlighted a few that we can consider it as basic or the foundation. So one is on the team. So you can, so that whenever you are giving that report, you're able to charge back. You're able to say, okay, team A or this team is the one that is spending X amount of money, and this team is attributed maybe to an owner. So you'll be able, in case it's too high, you'll know who to talk to. So it's attributed to an owner. Environment. So this prod versus the other environment, dev, staging, and testing, depending with the kind of setup you have. So here you will see in a place or in a situation where you're trying to optimize the expenditure. So here's where you check prod versus the other environment. How is the expenditure in this case? And then you'll be having informed decision. You'll be making an informed decision when changing, or when if you decide you want to cut costs. Do we cut on prod? Because maybe you over provision, you don't want your application to go down, but it's way too much. Whether it could be maybe it's development, you have too many resources that are not even necessary. So every resource to a specific environment. The other thing is on their service. So at some point, the organization might come to a hard decision where they have to decide to discontinue some service. So with this kind of expenditure, they'll be able to understand, okay, we are spending 1 million to develop and maintain this application, but it's not having any return. In terms of the return, it's maybe a quarter. So they will have that data. So every resources should be attributed to a specific service, so that when that decision comes, when deciding which service to discontinue or which service to scale it up, they will have the data in place. The other thing is on the cost center. Some organization or most organization, they have that cost center. So the finance will be able to allocate based on top management decision. I don't know about how they make that, but the decision they use in terms of allocating the specific certain amount. So you have to attribute it so that when the next financial year comes and they need to review, they'll be able to understand, okay, this is what it spent, this is the return, and okay, can we increase, can we remove? So it should be attributed to the cost center. Managed by, this will attribute when it comes to things like policy. Remember, for you to have a successful FinOps in place, everything has to be plugged in as it's supposed to be. So when we talk about labeling and someone comes and provision infrastructure or maybe a resource without following the ISA. So when you're trying to remediate it, if you don't have the policies in place or So one of it is like managed by. So if you're using something like Terraform or any other AIC it's out there, it's good to have managed by, so that you'll know, okay, this was being provisioned by Terraform. So it will become easy to know if someone came and provisioned something which did not go through the IC. The good thing of using IC is you have some form of control. So, for example, if you have decided, or you're in the organization have decided, like we don't want this kind of instances in test environment because they're too expensive, and you don't believe the test environment should be using them. So you can also just add that guardrail at IIC. So whenever anything has been provisioned outside the Terraform or any IIC tool you're using, you'll be able to identify it by tag, which is missing maybe something like managed by. Yeah. So as I mentioned, I think I've also talked about is on enforce it in code. This solves a lot in terms of drift, cost aspect, and even associating it to the right person. Because remember, these labels you can enable it at code level. Because when you tag the parent, it will be able to trick down to the others. It becomes easy. The other thing is you catch drift. So in case someone has not followed the guardrails that you've set, it becomes easy for you to catch drift. The other point is you activate them. So in most clouds, you'll set your labels, and then whenever you want to extract that report, it's not giving you the kind of report you're hoping for. You're not able to maybe get or filter the expenditure per service or team and all that. So you have to activate it based on the cloud provider that you're using. All right, so when it comes to FinOps, irrespective of the provider that you're using, whether it's AWS, GCP, Azure, or any other cloud, the public cloud that you're using, there's the foundation that stands through all, across all. And these are the 4 questions that any course setup must answer. So when you're setting it for whichever the provider you're setting it up, it must address the following question. So the first one is, where is the money going? So without labels, we have discussed about it, without labels, you're not able to answer that question. So that's why labels becomes a foundation. Label each and every resource that you're using in your cloud. So you can query it by account, because remember, there are some organizations that they do not use one account based on their kind of setup, or legal requirements. They might need some sort of isolation, and they might decide the isolation is based on account. So you need at any given time to answer where the money is going. Yes, we have the billing of $1 million. Where did this $1 million go? Which team, which service, and all that? It should be able to, at basic, answer that question. The other thing, it should be able to warn me before it's a problem. So it doesn't have to wait for that bill to land. You should set the alerts and budgets. So whenever that threshold is crossed, or there's any anomaly detected, let it alert you before it becomes a problem. Show me line item truth. So when the dashboard disagrees, or you need to know exactly what drove something, so you go to the raw usage exports. So this depends with the cloud provider that you're using, but when you have that kind of report, you'll be able to track down deep into the raw data. In AWS, you can query the using you can export in the costs utilization, cost usage reports using the Athena. So you'll be able to use SQL kind of queries and be able to get whichever information you're able to you want to answer the specific question that you have. And then it should be able to address what's oversized. So with time, as you're setting it up, you'll be able to monitor and even know whether your resources are oversized or are within the required size for your application to run. Right, now we go to the savings opportunity, and here we will talk about 2 levels. So the first one is cut waste, stop paying for what you don't use, and then the second one is pay less for what you do use. So there's no point of locking in a 1-year commitment on an instance you shouldn't even be running. You clean the house first, then you furnish it. All right, so how do we eliminate in terms of the cost savings? So most of our first pass savings, the easy wins comes from one thing, deleting the stuff nobody is using. And the beautiful part is these parts repeat on every cloud and every account. So it's not vendor kind of, so it's the same. Most of the time we provision, I think it's more of human nature. You provision resources and you forget to clean it up. Yeah, so some of these resources include the unattached resources. So the reserved IPs, the detached disks. So in context of AWS, when you provision some of the resources, a good example is the instances sometimes get allocated the Elastic IPs. And whenever you are decommissioning or destroying those resources, most of the time they're not fully brought down, especially if maybe you are not using and then you find there are those nice that are there and you're being billed because they're not so for AWS you're being billed when you're not using, so you're being penalized for just reserving an IP which you're not using, and when you use it, it's not being billed. So there are those things, unattached resources. It could be disk, it could be IPs, it could be load balancers that you're not using, you're paying for them. In terms of the logs, you have those logs and there's no retention. So you're retaining all the logs that you're having. It's accumulating and it's never expiring. So you're paying for the storage. Could be idle or stopped compute. So at some point you provision them, you stopped using, you are testing maybe your Docker application or whichever the things you are testing, and you let it there. The CPU memory, it's almost zero, but you also still build on that. There's the old snapshots and images. In this case, for the case of images, when you can set a policy, and AWS does support these things. You just enable them and set them. You can set a policy like something like prod, at least maintain maybe like 5 images, just in case you'll need to roll back. And anything past that, let it get deleted automatically. The same case apply for snapshots. Maintain a specific number based on your business case. In UAT environment, you might check if you really need them. If you don't need them, let them get deleted. Over provisioned environment, I think this we have talked about it. Sometimes staging or dev environment and production environment should not have the same kind of resources, because Dev can tolerate downtime, can tolerate disruption as compared to production. So when you're making that decision, dev or staging environment should use lesser or should costing you lesser as compared to production. Zombie load balancers, you might be having several load balancers that they don't have the targets. Maybe the targets were decommissioned or brought down, but you didn't clean it up. So those are some of the areas where the quick wins that you can explore in terms of savings or eliminating waste. Right. So we go to right size and commit. So you start with right sizing first. You match the size to real P95 usage, not around the number pick at launch. So at launch, you might anticipate, okay, I think this application will need these kind of resources, this kind of database and such. But with time, you need to monitor it and be able to get the right size to run that application. And remember, we mentioned that this is a continuous, it's not a one-off thing and you walk away. So you keep on reviewing it and changing. So if the usage, maybe the coverage is increasing in example for the production. So maybe you're getting more customers. Obviously, you have to also consider the scaling up to serve the customer. Here, another thing is you can schedule non-prod night offs and weekends. So in a dev and test, doesn't make sense to run a dev or a testing environment over the weekend where everyone is not even working. So when you get that level, you're using ISC and everything, you can be able to shut them off over the weekend. Autoscale on the right signal. So set up autoscaling. And the good thing is the cloud provider themselves have given people this mechanism, or they made it possible. It's up for you to set the metrics and automate it. So whenever, for example, maybe you want to scale based on maybe your application is CPU intensive, you can set CloudWatch alerts, it reaches a certain threshold, scale it up and all that. So you auto scale. Don't just let there a lot of resources lying idle with the hope of there will be traffic. So you utilize the auto scaling aspect of the resources that the cloud providers provide. Once you have this, then you can go ahead and commit. On the commitment is usually good because they're cheaper. So if you commit on a specific resource that you'll use for a given period, you'll find this amount of money you'll be able to save. But at the same time, for you to make that commitment, you have to have that data. You have to know what you need to sustain your application towards the end. All right, let's talk about shifting cost left into the pipeline. So we've talked about how FinOps blends with DevOps, and I know you've heard of terms like shifting the security left. So the way we've been shifting the security left in DevOps, it's also the same. We are talking about shifting the cost in cost left in when it comes to DevOps as well. So here, basically, you'll find, and there are actually a lot of tools people have come up where it can even give you cost estimates at Git level. So whenever maybe you're pushing and the resource aspect, so whenever you're pushing your changes, it will give you like an estimate. This estimate comes from the provider is able to notice, let's say, deploying an application native requires this kind of CPU based on the limits and requests that you've requested. It checks which kind of instance type you run, and then using the cloud pricing API, it will be able to give you an estimate. Okay, this all setup will maybe cost this. Remember, this is an estimate. It might change, so it's not something you will confidently say, okay, I was told it will cost me $20. Why is it 40? It's just an estimate, so that if opportunity you can change at PR level, then you take it at that point. There's the policy as code. So block-sized or unlabeled resources before they are over-provisioned. That one you put it at ISC level, where it check at code level, wherever the setup you've set, it check at code level before it becomes, it even land to cloud itself. Anomaly alerts to the owning team's chat. So in case there's any anomaly, you set it, whether it's you're using Teams, you're using Slack, or if it's email, you inform the team before it becomes a problem. And show back dashboard. So per team cost visibility makes spend a little bit competitive. So remember, at some point you might be tempted to compete as a team, which team is spending less. So at least isolate that, every team to have their own expenditure, and they will be discussing at team level and have that visibility to make them have informed decisions. All right, that is the basic. We will proceed to a simple demo. So this is just kind of an agent that I've set it up. What it does, it's speaking through what we have discussed in terms of cost. If I can speak into it, what motivated me is that you find for every startup, especially if you're not having enough funding, you'll always have this conversation before making that decision, like, will you be able to afford cloud? Because there's that notion, once you go to cloud, the cost will skyrocket. So you find most of the startups will want to have this visibility and this control as they go on, so that in case things are not going well, they remediate early. So as much as is a necessity, you find most of the people, especially startups, makes this decision. Okay, we heard everyone is going AWS, everyone is going cloud, Google or Azure cloud. And when I come with an idea, the first thing I think is, okay, I also want to go cloud because it's scale, because it's reliable, and all the good things promised by cloud. One thing that most of the people usually forget is FinOps, the cost aspect. And once they are maybe 1 month into cloud, and then they start thinking, okay, things are not working. Within the next maybe 6 months, we don't think we'll be in business if the trend continues like this. At that point, this is where teams now start thinking of the FinOps option. They go check for the tools that are available. Most of these tools are quite expensive, or they're built for bigger organizations who can really afford them. So what about a startup? So one way is at least get to inform the DevOps to understand the also on cost aspect, so the culture shift. But on top of it, I came up with an agent where it will be able to give you. It's very simple because all these things and the tools are available. The problem is we don't know how to use them, we don't know how to incorporate them, and we don't know, or we don't use them. Let me just say we don't use it, or we ignore them to put that data together for it to be beneficial to the organization. Let me call it that way. So basically, that is Macau Agent. It's a simple thing. Currently, it's for AWS, but I'm still building it, so it will also incorporate the other two major cloud provider, GCP and Azure. What it does, it runs into your environment. So it's not something like it follows the zero trust. So you don't have, your data does not leave your cloud. So you install it, set it within your cloud, your account. And the moment you set it, okay, of course, do settings you'll configure in terms of frequency, the email where you'll be getting this notification and alerts. So it does the scan of all the active regions. It checks for the key things that we've discussed. Are there idle resources? Are there security? Yeah, these also have the basic security checks. It checks for things like security groups. Have you configured it in a way that might compromise your setup? It also sent a remediation. You also get a remediation script based on the findings, and it can also send an escalation alert in case maybe this issue has been identified every time we run and it has not been actioned. So you'll get that alert and you check your email and you'll be able to know what you need to remediate. All right, so it's built on zero trust, as I mentioned. Everything is within your account. The findings, the remediation scripts, everything will be residing within your account. This is important when it comes to people who are in fintech, where data residency is key, or customer data that you're handling. It's very key, and the organization can even get can be sued legally in case they breach that. It's continuous. So here, you set the cadence. So if you want it to be scanning after 1 week, you set it to do that. It scans through the cost and even the risk that I've mentioned. It is also savings focus. So it surfaced the ghost resources, right sizing signals, and spend spike. Health and risk. So the security gaps, architecture, and the cost and anomaly, it will also tell you. I mentioned this, I made it a bit simple as I could, so I went with the serverless option. The decision was when you consider, because the main tool that is out there is KubeCost. So KubeCost, you'll find is Kubernetes native, so you have to provision a Kubernetes, run it, and set it up. But now you realize sometimes not everyone is at that level of Kubernetes. So the team might not even be may not be using Kubernetes in their setup. So here is why I decided to go with the serverless setup. So we are having the event bridge, which fires on the schedule, depending on how you've configured it. The Lambda will run the analysis. It saves it into DynamoDB, which also holds the state and even caching, because I used pricing API, and you realize for the case of AWS, the costs are different based on even the regions. So the T3 micro in US East might not be the same price in another region. So that's why there's the caching, where you have to keep querying per region and cache it to inform you. So the results, the output of it in a brief is, you get a Monday briefing. This is basically a weekly digest. It checks for any duplicates, because remember, every scan puts in a DynamoDB. So it checks if there's any duplicates. It duplicate it so that you can see what's new. It contains the ranked findings. So there are those findings which are considered as high risk, considered as low and medium. So it can classify it for you and give you the dollar estimates. So if, for example, you're having 10 idle instances and they are M5, so it will give you, and they're in specific region, so it will give you an estimate. Or an M5 in US East 1 will cost you, let's say, $10 per month. In US East 2, it will cost you, let's say, $9 per month. So it gives you an estimate of what you could be saving in case you remediate these. It flags the risk. As I mentioned, there's the IAM aspect of it. IAMs with too many or administrator privileges, it will flag them and tell you, because when it comes to security, we advocate for lists. You give the lists permission as opposed to everything, to curb in terms of, in case that user or role is compromised, you reduce the blasts. It also highlight things like in case the root user does not have MFA enabled, although that one has, for the case of AWS, it has been made mandatory. So once you have the account, the root, either you disable the root user or you set up the MFA, to avoid that case of I was compromised and people are mining Bitcoin using my account, and now I have to pay $1 million, which I even have no idea how that came into place. Yeah, so it also have a few architectural flags. So in case it can tell you, okay, this is, you could have considered this in place of this. And it points the waste and security gaps that you have talked about. You also have the cost focus, so where the spend is heading if nothing change. So if you don't change, this is what you could be spending in the next 1 month or 6 months. Yeah, so these are the stacks that have used Terraform for the resource provisioning. We mentioned these S3, there's Lambda, EventBridge, Dynamo that are in place. So Terraform for ISC, basically AWS Lambda for the code. So Lambda, AWS Lambda, you can use it as a compute service where you run your application as a serverless, so on need base. The event for triggering as per your schedule, Dynamo for storage, pricing API to get the cloud-based correct pricing per region or per resource also. Crypto key, this is for just licensing in case those who would want to use the pro or the licensed part. That's where we are using the crypto key to set it up. So when it comes to the agent, maybe to talk more about it. So in terms of the waste, it finds waste. So here the things like ghost resources, idle or fund compute storage. This is basically everything we have been talking about. There's that blind spend. So you could be having resources which they have not been tagged. So you can't know who owns these resources, or this expenditure is going to which team. So that is the blind space. This is the compute optimizer. This is a key thing that AWS provide. So based on the expenditure that based on the trend that you're spending, you can use the compute optimizer in a way. It will analyze, okay, the last 2 months you've been using 20% of the resources provision. So please consider this kind of resource. At the same time, if your spending is high or utilization is high, it can also recommend, because remember, it's not all about cutting, but at the same point you have to have value, so you don't just shut things down at the expense of reliability. On the risk, so I've mentioned things like there's the ports, there's the MFA. If your S3 is public, do you have CloudTrail enabled for audit trail? Textural flags, the exposure that you have, the privileges, any untracked Kubernetes or any resource that's being spent. It watches continuously. So in case there's any anomaly, it will alert you. If this, especially the high risk findings, it will escalate to the given email that you've given. And remember, these things are also, these reports or the findings are also saved in an S3 bucket. So it can also just pull a report in whichever format you want, PDF, Excel, CSV, and all that. Yeah, so that one actually talks on the reports and plan. Also gives you like a 30, let me just call it next 30. You can even remediate it maybe within 1 day if it's within reach. So here, if, for example, you have idle EC2 instances, remember it has even identified by ID and all that. So you have a script that has the IDs or the resources of possible maybe shutdown. So in case you execute that script, of course it has told you have these EC2 instances idle. The recommendation is shut it down to save this kind of amount. So the script will, because the script will ask you, do you want to shut it down? So if you say yes, the script you will terminate that instance and remediate the issue. It's built to trust. So real pricing, I mentioned that we query the direct pricing API in the case of AWS. So you get real pricing and not guesses based on the public information, but the real pricing because it sometimes fluctuates. Zero trust, mention everything run in your own account. No data is leaving your account. And graceful onboarding, we'll share the GitHub link where you can be able to test it. Actually, you only need Terraform and an AWS account, and you'll be able to test it. What I'm still working on is incorporate the other cloud providers, Azure and GCP for a start. And also we'll also incorporate the night mode. Night mode, it's basically the one that I mentioned in especially dev or staging environment, where during the night or when the team is not working, you shut down those resources unless tagged otherwise. And even the same case apply over the weekend, so that you don't just have idle resources that are not being used. Yeah, as we are winding it up, here's an example of a kind of a report that is being sent over email. So this is simple because I was running in my test account. It doesn't have much data, and actually this data are there on purpose. So I have like 3 EC2 instances that I'm not even using. They're there idle. You can see it's the same, like for the EC2, this is the same EC2 instance. It's a T3 micro, but you can see the pricing is different because they're based in different region. So these are these are the cost estimates. If I shut these EC2 instances down, these are the amount of money I can save per month. It also have the security group findings in terms of I have a few security groups that have allowed everything from the internet. So that poses a security issue where anyone can be able to access it, especially for the common ports. If someone has your account details and all that, it becomes easy to compromise because they know these ports are open. So it's not good to open them for the entire public. You can maybe restrict it to a specific CIDR and all that. Anyway, that one speaks to the security aspect. I think that's another conversation on its own. Yeah, and I think that is it. We'll share the GitHub link here. So this is where we have the code there currently with the features that I've already spoken about. I was to publish it on Terraform because you could just do as a Terraform module and then you run it. That didn't go through well. There was an issue with the Terraform site. That one I'll work on fixing it. But currently it also work on the installation and setup is on this GitHub where you'll be able to clone it, run it in your environment without even exposing any of your information to us or yeah, moving your any no data will leave your account to any account in this case. Yeah, so just to give it an overview, there are 5 things to remember. So FinOps is a practice, not a project. It's not a one thing checkbox you do. It's a practice. You just like DevOps is a culture and a practice, so is FinOps. Labeling is the foundation. You not go past that if you don't have labeling, because everything will be just guesswork. Eliminate waste first. That's the quick win. Anywhere there's waste, just eliminate it and you will automatically save it. You right size, then you can even go further and commit. There's also the universal question you've talked about, where at any given time when you're asked where is the spending, you're able to show where the money is going and giving the value for each dollar that you're spending. And the last one is talking about the guardrail. So setting it into your pipelines and so that the savings don't decay back into waste. Yeah, I think that is it. I don't know if there's any questions for me as I take it back
Wow.
to Steve.
Yeah. Before we dive into the questions, I would really say thanks, big time, Winnie. We appreciate. Yeah. I think one of the key points you cut across earlier was cloud costs in Africa tend to compete with salaries. And the truth in that is it's really wild, right? Yeah, it's really wild. But yeah, we truly appreciate the presentation. Yeah. For the GitHub, for the link to the repo, you can check the chat. Yeah. And also in the recording, it will be in the description. Yeah. Yeah, check out the repo, experiment with it, start with it, and also feel free to, engage Winnie anytime. She's always open to, hearing from anyone. Yeah. Uh, thanks, Winnie, so much. We truly appreciate on behalf of Kampala DevOps Community. I know we talked about this, and it's the busy week. You've spared time to, deliver such a very insightful session. Yeah, we truly appreciate. Thanks so much, Winnie. Yeah, this is really a cornerstone, because I think in most sessions you really they're talking about costs, right? I think if you're working for a startup, that costs can really send you down the drain, right? Yeah, but if we can curb these costs, see how best to optimize, build cost effective but performant architectures, I believe we can really be in, to, do better with the cloud. Yeah. But we truly appreciate. Yeah, once again, check out the link in the chat. Yeah, such that you can check out the Macau agent, experiment with it, play with it, open up a PR, Yeah.